Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are digging into something huge, a real seismic shift in the AI world. OpenAI, the company behind GPT-4, has just gone open. Well, sort of. Let's get right into it.
I mean, just think about it. What if you could take the core reasoning engine from one of the most powerful AIs on the planet, make it your own, and run it however you want, for free? Well, as of August 5th, 2025, that question is no longer a hypothetical. OpenAI just dropped GPT-oss-20b and its massive sibling, the 120b model, and believe me, this is a total game changer.
Okay, but first, we have to get one really crucial thing straight. These new models are open weight, which is not the same as being fully open source. So what's the difference? Think of it like this. OpenAI is giving us the finished cake, the fully trained model's brain, if you will, but they're keeping the secret recipe, the training data and all the code they use to bake it, locked away.
All right, so here's our game plan. First, we'll unpack what this open weight revolution is all about. Then, we're going to see how these new contenders actually perform. After that, we'll get into the nitty-gritty of how you can run them and even customize them. And finally, we'll wrap up with a simple framework to help you figure out what to do next.
This move is so much more than just a product release. It's a massive strategic pivot for OpenAI. I mean, this is the first time since GPT-2 that they've really stepped into the open model arena in a serious way. They're now going head-to-head with the other giants in this space, like Meta's Llama models and Mistral AI. So let's meet our two new players. On one hand, you've got this slick 20 billion parameter model, and on the other, a massive 117 billion parameter beast. But look closely at the numbers. See that huge gap between the total parameters and the active ones? That's the secret sauce, and we'll talk about why in just a second. And maybe most importantly, they're both released under the Apache 2.0 license, which means you can use them commercially. So that secret sauce, it's called a mixture of experts architecture, or MOE for short. The best way to picture it is to imagine a huge team of specialists. Instead of having everyone on the team work on every single problem, the model is smart enough to route each question to only the small group of experts that are best suited for that specific task. This makes them incredibly efficient and lightning fast. Okay, so they're efficient. But the million-dollar question is, how good are they really? Let's see how these new open-weight models actually stack up against OpenAI's own famous closed-source models like O3 Mini and O4 Mini.
All right, check this out. On the mmlu benchmark, which is a really tough test of broad general knowledge, the results are just staggering. The big 120B model gets breathtakingly close to the performance of the super powerful O4 Mini. OpenAI is calling this quasi-parity, which is basically a fancy way of saying you're getting top-tier reasoning, but in a package you can actually download and run yourself. Wild.
Now, let's switch over to coding skills. The 20B is, again, right up there with its big brother. But here's the real shocker. Look at the little 20B model. It doesn't just keep up with its counterpart, O3 Mini, it absolutely crushes it. We're talking more than 400 ELO points higher. For a model of this size, that is a massive, massive win. So, what's the bottom line here? It seems like OpenAI's marketing claims really do hold water. The gpt-oss-20b is a genuine top-tier reasoning engine, basically giving you O4 Mini performance. And the gpt-oss-20b? It's not just some little brother model, it's an absolute powerhouse that often outperforms O3 Mini. But it's not all sunshine and rainbows. It's really important to look at what the community is saying too. The early feedback suggests that while these models are geniuses at structured reasoning, they can sometimes fall short on more creative or very niche coding tasks. So the key takeaway is to think of them as specialized reasoning engines, not necessarily all-purpose creative geniuses. Okay, you're convinced. The performance is there. So now you're probably asking, how do I actually get my hands on these things? Well, your journey from here really splits into two main roads. You can go the DIY route, or you can take the easy path through the cloud. Choosing the DIY path gives you total control, complete privacy, and you can customize it to your heart's content. But, and it's a big but, it requires some serious hardware and you need to know what you're doing. The Cloud API path is pretty much the opposite.
It's the easy button. It's super simple, scales instantly, no setup required. But you do pay for what you use, and you're relying on someone else's servers. Now, if you're even thinking about that DIY route, this is probably the most important thing you need to hear. You know that headline feature running the 20B model on just 16 gigs of VRAM? Well, that comes with a huge asterisk. It relies on this new data format called MCFP4, which only works on the very latest NVIDIA or Apple hardware. If you've got a slightly older but still really powerful RTX card, that memory requirement suddenly triples to almost 48 gigabytes. Ouch. So if those hardware requirements just made you wince, don't worry, the cloud path is looking very, very attractive. A whole competitive market has already popped up. You've got providers like Grok and Cerebras using their own specialized hardware to offer insane speeds and incredibly low prices. We're talking just a few cents per million tokens. That is astonishingly cheap. And let's just hang on that speed for a second. Grok is reporting over 1,000 tokens per second for the 20B model. That's not just fast. That's fast enough to unlock entirely new kinds of apps. We're talking real-time, truly interactive experiences that just weren't possible before because of latency. The base models are obviously powerful, but what if you need an AI that's an expert in your specific field? Well, that is exactly where fine-tuning comes in. This is how you can take these amazing general reasoning engines and transform them into specialists for your unique needs. So the basic workflow looks something like this. You start by gathering up your own custom data. Then you format it using a new standard OpenAI has introduced. After that, you use an efficient training method like LoRa to adopt the model. And boom, you deploy your brand new specialized AI. Now, a really important piece of that puzzle is this new Harmony format. This is OpenAI's big play to create a kind of universal language for how we talk to these models, how we structure prompts, conversations, and tell them to use tools. By standardizing this, they're paving the way for a whole ecosystem where fine-tuning recipes and prompts can be shared and reused by everyone. So the big question is fine-tuning actually worth it? Really, it's a strategic trade-off. You're putting in an upfront investment of time and money to create that custom model, but the long-term payoff is huge. You end up with a smaller, faster AI that performs way better on your specific task, and it costs you less to run every single day. Whew! We have covered a ton of ground. So with all this new info swirling around, how in the world do you decide which GPT-OSS path is the right one for you and your project? Let's just boil it all down real quick. The strengths? Easy. World-class reasoning and incredibly cheap API access. The weaknesses? That big hardware catch for DIY folks. And the fact they're text-only, for now. The opportunities are massive. Think powerful on-device AI and a whole new class of low-latency apps. And the threats? Well, competition is fierce, and there's always a risk that comes with powerful, open technology. When you strip everything else away, your decision really comes down to this one simple but crucial question. What is your number one priority? If your answer is absolute privacy and total control, then the DIY local hosting path is for you. If it's the absolute lowest latency for a real-time application, you should be looking at cloud providers like Grok or Cerebras. And if it's all about the lowest possible cost at scale, that competitive API market is where you're going to find your answer. Your priority here will light the path forward in this new open weight revolution.